Today, I'll be discussing Chapter 3, which is the research methodology, or sometimes called research method. So, for a research paper, technically or normally, it has 5 chapters or sometimes 6 chapters. So, Chapter 3 is on the research methodology or the research methods. So, later we will learn about the different parts of Chapter. So this is chapter 3. So it is written in this way, bold, and the first letter of the word chapter is capitalized, and then the title of that chapter is research methodology, written in all capital letters and bold. So after this, you will have an introductory statement of what is chapter 3 all about. So normally you will just enumerate the parts that could be found in the chapter 3. So for example, this chapter discusses the research design, locale of the study, respondents of the study, the data gathering instrument, which includes the test of its validity and reliability, the data gathering procedure, and data analysis. So you are going to discuss these enumerated parts one by one. So you have the research design, the locale of the study, respondents, data gathering instrument. Of course, if that is self-made or not a standardized instrument, then you can have the validity and then reliability discussion, and then the data gathering procedure or data collection, and the data analysis or the statistical tool. So although other schools have different policies and guidelines regarding the content of chapter 3, but more or less schools or different institutions would have almost the same parts of chapter 3. Maybe they will vary on the title, like data gathering procedure into data collection, or other schools will not have the locale of the study, so they will not include, because anyway it is also stated in the scope and limitations for chapter 1. So as mentioned, there will be an introductory statement for chapter 3. So it will give an overview idea of the parts of the chapter 3 by simply enumerating the parts in order. So take note that the format and parts of chapter 3 depends to the research policy and guidelines of the school. So you have to adhere with the policies and guidelines to the school where you are currently doing the research. So research design. So for the research design, you have to identify the design that you are going to use. So obviously the design will be dependent on the title or the topic and the objectives of your study. So the design should be carefully selected so that it will answer, or it will give a guide to the researcher on the correct way of doing the research. And then after identifying the research design, since there are many research designs available to select, you are going to define the research design. So define it by citing the sources properly or simply discussing the design, and then justify why are you going to use that design among other designs available. So your justification will simply go back to the definition of the design. So say for example, we are going to identify the design, so it should be written in the first sentence, the design. For example, a descriptive research design will be used in this study. So in this first sentence, you already identify the design, which is descriptive. And then second is define, so we have to cite sources. According to the source, descriptive research presents a picture of a specific details of a situation, social setting, or relationship. And then you can also add another source if you do so, it's okay. And then justify. That will be the last sentence. So this design is appropriate for this study because its purpose is to simply describe the students' level of engagement in online classes. This is just an example. Just take note that you have answered these 3 basic essential tasks to do, which are to identify, to define, and to justify. Next is the local of the study. So the local of the study will just simply state the setting or locality or place of the study. It will answer the where question. Where will you conduct? Where will it be conducted? Or simply where. And then you are going to shortly describe the setting of the study. So for example, this study will be conducted in school in Cebu City. And then you describe what is the school. So XYZ High School is formerly known as ABC High School and is considered as one of the big schools in the center of Cebu City. Currently, the school has 12,000 student population and 168 teachers. The school caters both junior and senior high school students. Moreover, the senior high school offer academic, technical, vocational, and livelihood, sports, and arts design tracks. So this is just to give a background of the setting. Next, respondents of the study. So it will just answer these questions. Who are the respondents of the study? If you can state the population and of the study, and then the sample, and then discuss the sampling technique used. This is only true if you are going to get a sample out of the population, but you will not state the sample and sampling technique if you will take all the population. However, it is rare to have it is rare to study the entire population because it's quite difficult, or it will take time for the researcher to finish the study. That is why sample is necessary. So example, this study will be conducted to grade 12 ABM students in XYZ High School. So we already answered who are the respondents. And then next is population and sample. So out of 240 students, a sample of 150 students will be selected using simple random sampling technique. So we already mentioned the sampling technique. And then, how did you get the sample? You can state that the Sloven's formula at 5% margin of error was used in computing the sample. So then, discuss how are you going to get the sample. Like this, each student will be assigned a number, then sample will be drawn using the Excel to generate randomized numbers. So this is how you're gonna get the sample. So take note of the respondents of the study. It will just answer the who questions, what is the population and sample, and then discuss the sampling technique and how are you going to get it. Next is the data gathering instrument. So for the data gathering instrument, you're going to answer these questions. What research instrument will you use? So in terms of research instrument, it depends on your topic, your objectives, and the design, because there are research designs which will not require surveys or research instrument like survey, interview, especially for the science or experimental study. Then if that is for the non-experimental, you have to identify if that is standardized or researcher made. Are there existing standardized instruments? Because if there are existing standardized instruments, then you can use those standardized instruments because it will not undergo validity and reliability. But if there are no available standardized instruments, or the standardized instruments will not capture your objective, then you can have the researcher made or modified questionnaire. So researcher made meaning to say you're going to write your own instrument. So if that is researcher made, then it will undergo validity and reliability testing. So we will discuss validity and reliability testing in the next session. So next is the data gathering procedure. So in here, you're going to discuss and enumerate the steps or procedures in conducting the research, starting from the permission to conduct until the analysis of the data. So you just simply enumerate what are the steps or procedures involved in completing your study. Next, data analysis, or sometimes it is called statistical tools. So in here, you are going to identify the statistical tools to be used in relation, of course, to the objective cited in chapter 1. So the tool, each objective, will have a specified statistical tool to be used in order to solve that objective. And then you're going to define the statistical tools used. Of course, you're going to cite sources, justify the use of the statistical tools. So if the statistical tool is for inferential, then the decision rule for rejecting or accepting the null hypothesis should also be stated in the data analysis. So take note that if you have 5 objectives, each objective will have a corresponding statistical tool. Either that statistical tool will be repeated. For example, number 1 and number 2 will have the same statistical tool. So you have to still enumerate it per objective.
Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel and click the bell icon to get the new video updates.